So Drupal camp. So I recently updated my session right here to puppies, puppies, and more puppies. I don't know if you see this right here. So this session was going to be about Olivero, but now it's going to be primarily about puppies. And so let's see if I can even move this little thing over a bit more here so you can get a better view. Because I know what people want, and they want puppies. So I'm going to do this right here. Yeah, hold that there. Should have done this earlier if I was prepared, right? Put this right here. And there we go. Puppies. We got puppy over there and puppy here. Maybe we can move this over there. And then back up a little bit so you can see all the puppies at once. There we go. Now those are some puppies. So this one with the pink collar, this is Lady, and she's a little bit heavier. And this is Katie. Lady likes to chew on leaves. Katie likes to go explore and do things. So yeah. So on top of this, I did have a session. So out of people in the audience, looks like there's like 7 people here. Should we do more puppy stuff, or should we talk about like the Olivero stuff? I'm leaning toward the puppies. Look at these. Look how cute they are. You puppies. You puppies. Yeah. All right, we're gonna put. All right, so let's do Olivero right here. So all right, so I'm gonna present right here. So this session right here is it's kind of like just a few slides, and I'm just gonna walk through the theme and talk about things I learned. So it's called Lessons Learned While Making a Core Theme. My name is Mike Herchel. I'm a senior front-end developer at a company called Lullabot. Lullabot is a design, development, strategy, and we do like support and maintenance now. If you have like a site that needs support, reach out. I'm in Gainesville, Florida. I love going to Drupal Camp Chattanooga. I've attended it multiple times in person. I love the organizers, so I appreciate everybody. When I drive up there, I typically take my chainsaw and ride on my motorcycle while I'm barefoot, and I rescue and cause carnage on the way. That's an image. So what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about a little bit what Olivero is, and I'm just going to talk about some technical stuff. I think when I gave this presentation before, it was only half an hour long. I think I have plenty more time now, so I'm just going to kind of riff off and maybe answer some questions, and then we'll also talk more about the puppies. So some topics that I'm going to talk about is like things like accessibility, right to left, you know, because this is in Drupal Core now, so we have to support like languages like Arabic and things like that. That you know, you start from the right-hand side and you read to the left. And we talk about our usage of Css Grid, Css Variables, and some sneaky backend dialogues, which I'll talk about. So Drupal 4.7-ish. Does everybody remember Blue Marine? Blue Marine was like this great table-based theme. So this is what Drupal looked like, maybe like, I don't know, circa 2006. And then around 2007, we had Garland. I started using Drupal right around there, right around here, and we had Garland right there. And Garland was kind of cool. Bartik was after Garland. Excuse me. Bartik was after Garland. So Bartik was developed in like 2010, and it was first released in early 2011 with Drupal 7. And honestly, we haven't changed since then. Like, you know, Bartik has just been there. It's been, like, there's been some like minor improvements to make it responsive and things, but honestly, it looks old, you know. So like from my point of view, like what this really comes down to is Drupal's reputation in the wider wider web development community. And if you install and it looks like this, you're gonna have this feeling, you know, like, hey, I thought Drupal was all this great stuff and it looks like this, you know, and I have the same feeling about the backend theme, you know. So created, the puppy just fell. Hold on, this puppy just like fell off. Hold on 1 second. Let me fix my camera here. All right, here you guys go. I got like a little camera, a little webcam mount here. Get this on nice and tight. Oh yeah. She just like rolled off the sweater. I think the better view might be this one. So anyway, so created Olivero, and I'm not going to talk too much about like the genesis of it, but I'm going to talk a little bit about 1 second. Don't want this. What I want is my local running Olivero. I was hoping to give you a demo URL, but I have like a tugboat instance of Olivero running, but it runs the latest Drupal like commit, and like last night it broke, at least the composer install broke from it. So anyway, so this is Olivero right here, and this is in Drupal Core, which to me is like pretty fantastic, you know. So you can go into like the Drupal repository, look into the core directory, and see Olivero in here. And it's been about a year coming. There's like a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into this. I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you a demo of this since I think we have like a pretty good amount of time here. One of the like you start scrolling and the navigation goes away. I think that's kind of a cool little effect. It has support in Core for drop-down menus, which to me, like, this is like, wow, welcome to 2010. But like Bartik didn't do this, you know, no Core themes did this. Has like some cool, like, you know, effects for you know, our search. And it supports like a lot of things, you know, like for example, like right here, you're going to see like things like embedded media, you know, so you know, I don't know if you're familiar with the media library that's in Core. You can embed media, you can float it, and you can see when it's floated, like we kind of pull it out, we kind of do like a little pull, a little negative margin and pull it. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. You can embed things like videos in Drupal Core, documents, local videos, and things like that. And there's a lot of like really cool things there. We have like a lot of example web forms in here. Like the web form module includes a number of accessibility demo things that we can test out, so you can kind of see what like the form elements look like in here. And these are actually going to change a little bit. There's a couple of outstanding accessibility issues that we're going to fix. But so right now, Olivero is an experimental theme. So if you were to enable it, it would say this is experimental. And it's not yet the default theme for Drupal. And so Drupal 9.1 is coming out in December, and it's not going to be it's going to be included in that, but it's not going to be the default theme. But our goal is to make Olivero the default theme for Drupal 9.2, and I think that's going to be possible. You know, I really think that's going to be pretty straightforward. We don't have a heck of a lot of issues, and things are looking super good. Oh, the puppy's moving on. See that puppy? Oh, yeah, she's so cute. That's Lady. And so yeah, so there's like a lot of other cool things in here. Like for example, like we have, you know, you can go into views and you can create a grid view, and but it's not responsive, you know. So we reworked a template and we made it responsive, and it's kind of interesting because when like the default markup has like these like little row divs around each row, you know, which if you want to make it responsive, you know, it goes from like 3 in a row to 4 in a row to 5 in a row, that's really not going to work. So we had to remove some of that, and then we had to rework this. Now we do support Internet Explorer 11, so we can't always use CSS Grid, and in this case we don't. We use Flexbox. For vertical, like views also allows vertical orientated grid, so you can see like the count goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and this isn't core, but it always kind of looked like shit, you know. It didn't look good, and it wasn't responsive, you know. But like for those that want like a Pinterest like layout like this, you'd have to kind of do it. And so so the way we did this is we use Css Columns, and so you can see it kind of works as expected. Now we go to like a 3-column layout, and you go down and you go to a 2-column layout. And this works across all browsers, including Internet Explorer 11. And it's just pretty awesome. We have a hero region up to the top, I guess. So normally there's like an image up here, but I guess I don't have the image, but there's a hero region. Let me highlight it so you can kind of see where it's at right here. Background. Hey, look at that, that kind of looks good. So this is the hero region up here, and it's kind of meant for like maybe like a homepage slideshow or a homepage like large image or something like that. That's pretty neat, you know? So you can insert like something like a slick carousel or something in there. We have a content below region, and if you go to the content below, it uses Flexbox to automatically like kind of fit everything in here in a nice way. And I'm going to show you kind of how this works right here, where like if I go in here and I duplicate one of these things, so I'm going to copy this one and go up here and paste it, and you can see down here it shows down below. And if I create another one, hold on a second, let me go back up. If I create another one, you can see how it automatically fits in there and things like that. And these are all responsive, you know, so you can kind of see how it works, and it's pretty neat. So that's, you know, these could be menus or something like that. There's also like some footer regions and, you know, and things like that. There's a single sidebar region, and the for the sidebar, hold on a second. The sidebar, we only have one sidebar region, where in things like Bartik there's 2 sidebar regions, so that's just something to be aware of. But we have some special styling for the menus, and you can kind of see how that fits in there. And let's see, there's a bunch of things, like, you know, we support, like, obviously we support all types of comments and stuff, and we actually have like a little button in here where you can like hide the nested comments and things like that. And what's really cool is if you have a situation where you just have like a crap load of menu items up here, excuse me, you can go into Appearance, and you can go into this checkbox right here that says Enable Mobile Menu at All Widths. And this will do what you think it does. At all widths, you have this menu up here, and you can jam 30,000 things in here if you really want, and it'll just kind of work as expected. You know, so that's pretty cool. And let's say you want to like insert a logo up here, or just like change the color or something like that. We have a couple different options. We don't allow like you to choose your color, but we have things like you can change it to gray. And if you change it to gray, you can see it's a gray background up here. And you can also, let me get back into the theme settings, you can also change it to white. And then you can just like insert like an image or something like that. So like, you know, change it to white. And then at that point you can insert a logo or something like that, and, you know, it'll just kind of look like you expect. And then there's like a lot of other like really interesting things that like I had to take into account, you know. So let's kind of set this back to default right here. Like, what happens if like I have a super long site name, you know? So I'm gonna say super long site name, and you can kind of see how it bounces up and wraps and everything. You can actually, let me add an attribute on here called content editable, and that should allow me to like type in here, and you can kind of see how everything wraps, you know. And if I don't like for whatever reason, it'll wrap if there's like, it'll change its wrapping, and it'll just kind of respond like really nicely, you know. And believe it or not, a lot of work went into like dumb things like that, you know. Because I want this theme to kind of, we want it to like look good in all situations. So let's talk about like some technical challenges, right? So I talked a little bit about accessibility. So accessibility is like a core, or like one of the main core gates. Let's check on these puppies too. Look at that one. Switch gears. Here we go. Oh, you're asking, Michael, you're asking me about performance. It's super good with performance because there's not like a lot going on, honestly. So looking at the code, well, let's talk about accessibility right here, and then we'll talk about, oh, hold on, this one's dreaming. She's dreaming, and she's twitching. Let me see if I can get her. Oh, she woke up. But she was dreaming and twitching. Go back to sleep, little girl. Come on. There we go. Now this cord's in my way. So let's talk about accessibility, but then like Michael remind me about like the performance stuff, and I'll just talk a little bit about that. So there are some performance optimizations that we made. So accessibility is a huge core gate, and it's an important core gate. And so like early on during the process, I created a Olivero POC. I created like basically a proof of concept, and this is just running static HTML right here. And this is just a single page static HTML, and I ran this by the core accessibility maintainers, you know. So there are 4 people that are basically have been granted the right to say like, hey, this is good for accessibility, this is bad for accessibility, and we're going to approve this and stuff. So I ran by some of our architectural decisions, and we made a number of changes. I'm going to talk a little bit about those. Man, I really want a water too. I'm going to walk back and get my water. Look at these puppies. So like one of the goals for this theme is to kind of remove the myth that said like a very accessible website needs it can't look good. You know, we want this to be like super accessible and look amazing. And so some of the things that we test right here is we test in Windows high contrast mode. So Windows, ever since like I think Windows Vista, has like this high contrast mode, and it does like a lot of weird things. I don't have a picture in front of me, but like it basically makes the screen like the background black and the text and all the borders white, or vice versa. And it removes a lot of things like background images. It removes box shadows and things like that. And then borders always go like either black or white, depending, you know, so you can see them in high contrast. And so like if you're doing some funky focus styles or something like that, they might not work in high contrast mode. And, you know, so you're thinking, well, there's a media query that can select the high contrast mode with that. Yeah, but we also support Firefox in high contrast mode in Windows. And the media query doesn't work with that. So there's a lot of like really, really weird things and details that we've had to do around there. I'm not going to get into that right now, and honestly, they're not all yet resolved, but we have a path going forward. I'm going to talk a little bit about navigation though right now. And I wrote an article about this on lullabot.com, but, oh, and I want to see how much time I have here. Session schedule, I have the 150. So I have another half an hour. This is awesome. So let's talk about navigation right here. So I'm tabbing right now, and these focus styles are going to change a bit. But you can see I'm tabbing through, and if I highlight this right here, there's a hyperlink. You know, let me show you what that looks like. So there's this hyperlink, and then to the right, there's a button. So the hyperlink is obviously links to the web form page, and the button expands it. So I can click on this and toggle this right here. You can see that I'm toggling the button right there. And visually, I just have like the icon kind of change, and I have the button, the tap target on the button is a little bit larger. And then I also have some JavaScript that checks on hover right here. So, and you can see there's a number of different Aria, or there's an Aria attribute that changes right down here. So let's kind of look at that right now. So you can see there's a couple Aria attributes on here. There's Aria controls, and there's Aria expanded. And when I hover above these, some JavaScript will toggle that Aria expand. Now the Aria controls points to the ID of this unordered list down here, this submenu. And the Aria expanded will tell your screen reader or whatever if it is expanded or not. Hold on, these puppies are moving around. Let's watch them. Smooth this up and down. Looks like it's out of focus. Let me see if I can fix that. There we go. So I know why people are here. They're here for the puppies. There we go. All right. So now I got this big old thing right in my way. All right. So yeah, so the Aria expanded will tell the screen readers whether this is expanded, and then these the submenu right here by default has this property called visibility, and it's set to visibility hidden. You can see right here, visibility hidden. And then it also changes like opacity, but visibility hidden will actually remove it from the accessibility tree. And what that is that's basically an API for screen readers and stuff and assistive devices to hook in to see if they should show this. And so visibility hidden will basically hide it from any type of screen readers and things like that. But when you hover above or you hit enter to open it, it will go to visibility visible. And the reason why I'm not using display none is because if you're using visibility, it kind of handles your CSS transitions better, where display none will just like pop in and pop out, but visibility hidden, you can kind of like apply a transition for like 0.2 seconds or something like that, and it'll go ahead and do that. Excessive devices, I meant accessibility devices, or no, I said assistive devices, sorry, assistive devices, James. Although excessive could be like a cool word. No, assistive devices. I'm probably slurring. Sorry. So yeah, so also there's a cool feature in Drupal 9 that I want to show right here. So I'm going to go into the menus right here. And Drupal 9 supports a button right here. So you can see like right now I have the link set to front, but you can type in here route button. This is in Drupal 9 core right here. And what it'll do is instead of generating an A tag like a hyperlink, it will actually generate a button. And we will theme this properly, which is pretty cool. So you can see now this whole thing is a button. Let me show you what it looks like. It's a button right here, and we handle that like all nicely, like we detect it within our twig templates, and we basically do that. And so this is like this is a really good way to be accessible within your navigation patterns, like because a lot of people don't want to necessarily click on these; they just want to use them to toggle to show and hide stuff. So you're probably thinking to yourself like, hey, I'm showing and hiding all this stuff and toggling that Aria attribute with JavaScript, but does it work without JavaScript? And the answer is yeah. So if I remove the JavaScript, what I can do is it uses focus within, which is a focus within is like a pseudo class that that you add on, that you can add on. It's not supported by IE 11, but it will allow you to tab through and tab through everything. So the site's fairly usable. You can see, like, you can even get into like the search stuff through Focus Within, which is pretty neat. And yeah, so that's pretty cool. So let me turn back on JavaScript. And how does that work at mobile? You might be thinking, well, it's kind of interesting. At mobile, we're just like, shit, let's just show everything. So at mobile, we just like, if JavaScript's disabled right here, we just theme and output the whole thing right here. And the way that we do that is we actually have like a, let me show you some code. We actually have, I'm in Calero here. We actually have a no script thing that gets loaded. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. So under CSS, where is it? Components, is it no script down here? Might be under base. Or theme. I don't know. Hold on 1 second. No script will output. It's under navigation. Yeah, right here. Nav primary. So like, let me open this up right here. Ooh. So with this gets loaded in a no script tag right here. And the reason that we do it here as opposed to like in the regular thing is because we don't want a flash of unstyled content. You know, we don't want that like no JS menu to show up while JS is still loading. So we do a number of things like this right here. And we have to output that through this like little weird thing in pre-process, and then it throws the no script directly into the twig file. So accessibility though. So I guess we're talking about like navigation right here. So at mobile, we have the same pattern up here. This is a button element, and when you toggle it, you can see that the Aria expanded goes from false to true, and it has this Aria controls right up here. This button goes display none at like larger widths, you know, if it's necessary to do. And so yeah, so the navigation is like pretty straightforward. So we've actually tested this with the National Federation of the Blind. We partnered with the National Federation of the Blind and tested this. And to tell you the truth, it was almost of a anticlimax disappointment when they came back and they said, this is amazing and we can't find any issues. And it was like, good, like let's pat ourselves on the back, but we know there's some issues, you just didn't see them. But it was still pretty cool that they were just like so excited about that. And so yeah, so talking about rems and ems and stuff like that. So let's get back to this. I'm gonna pet this puppy's belly. Watch this. Patty. Oh yeah. Oh, good stretch. Oh, he's a good girl. Yeah. All right. So right now, all of the values are in pixels, so you can see that, and that's not like the best practice ever right there. And the reason is because you can go into your browser settings right here, and you can change your font size. You know, so you can change your font size from medium to things like large or very large. And the thing is, if you're using pixel values, it's not going to support that. We have an issue open in core. So this is our meta issue to make it stable in the default right here that I'm bringing up right here. And there's an issue in here. Let me just Google it. There's this issue right here that says, basically there's a core has post CSS available to do CSS development, and basically what that allows you to do is like do somewhat modern CSS styles, and it'll convert it to stuff that IE11 and everything else that can understand. And so like this is a little post CSS plugin that we're going to add in here to convert all pixels into rem units. And rems, ooh, look, the puppy just fell off. Did everybody see that? You just fell off? You fell off. You're just going to sleep there? You're going to get back up. Oh, she rolled and fell off. Don't fall off anymore. You might fall off the entire desk. So rems are units called relative M unit, and basically it's you set the size of it based on the font size of your root element, which is like the HTML tag. So if your HTML tag sets 16 pixels, one rem will be 16 pixels and stuff. So we have that in there to solve that, and that's just going to be like super nice. And right now it's RTBC. I've been working with some other core committers on getting this to where we want, and it's going to be committed at any point. It probably needs to be re-rolled at some point, but it's getting pretty close. So talking about forms. Forms is like one of the more complicated things that we had to deal with accessibility, and we're not done yet. So let's look at some forms. So one of my favorite things is Jacobs has a bunch of like sample web forms in there. It's like so nice, you know, things like this accessibility advanced thing right here that's just like really useful for like theme developers, right? So it'll show you like all types of cool things. You can see like some things like this is select 2, which isn't in core, so it doesn't look quite right. And there's even some things in here that don't look right. You can see this right in here, and that might be something that we look at, and these don't look quite right. But like by and large, the forms look good. You can see like there's this extra outline out there, this offset outline that we add for our focus state. One issue that we have right now is a visual issue where like we're concerned about like these forms don't look enough for me, and it might confuse people. So we're talking about like changing the background color and things like that. Our designers are involved with that. But error states are very very important. So like let's disable client-side validation and enable required, and you can hit submit, and you can kind of see what it looks like right here. You can see like we have this thing, what do you call it, this error message up here that shows everything that's required. And you can see like, you know, everything shows in red here and things like that. There's a couple bugs in here. I think you can see like this autocomplete doesn't change red. We need to fix that. And then if you go and enable the inline form module, it works with that too. Inline form errors. I'll show you what it looks like with that. It works pretty well, and we're super happy. So there's a lot that I learned with this accessibility stuff. Like I thought I knew it pretty well, so disable client-side validation. I want to do that, and enable required. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just hit submit, and you can see like the inline form errors puts everything underneath right there, which is super nice. So yeah, so accessibility, it's a lot going on, and a lot to do still, but it's coming. There's still a couple other things that we found. Like for example, if I go, it's possible to have two menus open at the same time, and there's a patch for that that's going to be committed, and there's a bunch of stuff that's a bunch of little things, but like by and large, like things are pretty accessible and looking pretty good, and I'm super happy about that. So let's look at other things. RTL. So RTL is basically how the site will look for languages that start where you read on the right-hand side and on the left-hand side. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple things here. And I have 25 minutes, so that's good. So to test RTL, there's this attribute on the HTML tag. and it says dir for direction, and right now it says LTR, which means, you know, left to right. So on the left hand side it starts and, you know, go. So we're going to do RTL up here. And everything should flip ideally, you know, so you can see everything is kind of like mirror opposite right here. And there's a lot that goes into it, you know. So there's a post CSS plugin that's like called like post CSS RTL. Post CSS RTL, and we used this initially, and it really worked really well. It basically takes everything like float right and makes it like RTL float left. You know, you can see that right here, dir RTL float left. And that worked really well, but we ended up using what's called Css Logical Properties. And Css Logical Properties is like a modern way to write CSS, where so you see where it says like border inline end here. So instead of border right, I would type border inline end, and border left would be border inline start. Border top would be border block start. You know, so like if the item that you're managing is on like the y-axis, it's border block, and if it's on the x-axis, you do border inline, and then it's either start and end. And these will automatically work with modern browsers, you know, so like you don't even have to like do the dir RTL stuff in your CSS and things like that, and that's like super nice. But you're thinking to yourself right now, well, Mike, what about Internet Explorer 11? I'm like, yeah, shit, yeah, we have to support Internet Explorer 11. So once again, we use post CSS, you know, so we use post CSS logical properties, and we use post CSS logical in here, and it moves everything. It kind of just fixes everything. We actually do this in Core. There's post CSS preset env. And this contains a number of things. This contains things like post CSS logical properties, and post CSS allows you to create variables for your media queries, and it transpiles your CSS variables, because IE11 is a real drag. There's a lot of things that we cannot do because IE11. And there's an issue to remove Internet Explorer 11 support from Drupal 10, which will be released in a couple years. And I'm really looking forward to that, because I think that'll probably happen. Oh, the puppy's dreaming. Do you see her? She's twitching, she's dreaming. Oh, yeah. Let me go see if we can get closer. I hope she don't like roll off the desk. It's like a 3-foot drop. Should probably be okay. Anyway, so so we're using CSS logical properties. Let me show you what that code looks like, just so you can kind of see right here. It's like, I don't know, navigation or something. Ooh, that's a CSS file. So the pcss.css files are the stuff that we author right here. So you can see like there's going to be inset block start, inset inline start. So inset is basically code for like things like left. So this is the same as left 9 pixels. Wait, no, this is top 9 pixels because it's block. So this is inset block start is top. So this is top 9 pixels, and this one will be left 0. So it's saying top 9, so you know it's the same as top 9 pixels, and then you know left 0. And this will automatically transpile, you know. So like if we were to look in like this, like the actual resulting CSS right here, you can see left 0 right here. It says dir LTR for left to right, left 0, but for RTL, it says right 0. And for top, where it says top 9 pixels, it doesn't need to do anything, because that's going to be the same for left to right and right to left and stuff, which is kind of interesting. So that's kind of how it transpiles. But there's a little bit of weird stuff in here, like there's a little bit of gotchas, you know, because ideally you should be able to do like things like let's say I have inset inline start 0 right here, but then like let's say I have like a media query right down here, you know, at media, you know, ... Oh, darn it, what am I doing here? My other monitor started doing some shit. So, but then I want to do it down here, and I have this and the, or well, let's say instead of inset, it's margin. So I got margin block start, margin inline start, but then down here I do margin 0. The problem is that margin will not, because this is set to margin 0, this won't get like the dir attribute when it's after it's transpiled, which means it won't have the same specificity as this, and so it won't take precedence over this. So you have to be very specific when you do this. You have to do like, you know, you have to, if you do that, it'll work. So that's something that I've had to deal with. But eventually, when we, you know, take out IE11 support, it's going to be hopefully somewhat easy to refactor all the stuff to get it working, and we'll probably cut out a lot of our CSS file size too, because we're not going to have all that dir RTL stuff in there. Or at least we're going to be able to get rid of a lot of it. So that's something that's really interesting. So CSS Logical Properties is something that I really learned about, and I think it's pretty neat. Let's see what else I got in here. Yeah, so you can see like some margin top, 18 pixels. These are just some examples, RTL. So CSS Grid, let me take a drink of water. Oh, look at the puppies moving. Man, she's gorgeous. So cool girl. So let me open up Firefox for this, because Firefox has like super better CSS Grid debugging tools. And let's go into a embedded media right here, because this will show you some interesting things. Actually, that's not the best one. Let's go into this one. There you go. So you can see I'm going to take these dev tools into my other screen, and I'm going to highlight some grid regions here. All right, so you can see like there should be some you should be able to see some dotted lines and things like that. So there's some interesting things that are going on right here. So when I highlight this content, I have this like little content area right here. And you can see if I, you know, this right here, if I were to look at it, is like going like, I don't know, like a couple grid columns or something. Let me see if I go up. Yeah, this is going from grid column 1 to grid column 9. But then if you scroll down, you're going to see, hey, well, look at these things. They're pulled out of the grid right here. You know, they're pulled out of the grid, and by and large, they align pretty well to the grid, you know. So like normally you could do things like that through, what is it, Subgrid, you know, CSS Subgrid. So CSS Subgrid isn't even yet in like major browsers, but allows you to like kind of like have different elements and align them to the grid, even if they're not direct descendants of the grid items and stuff. And so we have to do a lot of like really weird stuff here, and I'm going to kind of walk you through some of that here. And oh, let me also a couple other things that are important when we're thinking about the grid is we don't know what the hell Drupal's going to output. You know, like content. Oh, let me reposition the puppies here. Hold on 1 second. You can only see puppy butt. You want to see the puppy face. There we go. Get it to refocus. Oops. Not focusing. Sorry, guys. Is it focused? It looks like it's not focused for me. It's a good question about the authoring experience. Let me try this. Main thing is to get these puppies focused. There we go. That looks focused. I'll talk about the authoring experience in a second right here. But so I want to talk about how I do this right here. So like long story short, we're doing it through negative margins. So let me bring up DevTools right here and kind of show this to you right here. So where's my DevTools? Crap, I lost the window. I have too many things open. There we are. So we do negative margins over here, and so we have this right here is set to this like really weird negative margin thing right here. Like that's some weird stuff, and then you know you can have like different widths and stuff. And negative margin is calculated because we want to be right over on the grid right there. So to do this, let's go. We have an embedded media. So what we do right here is, so this is we have this utility class called align right, and if we're in layout content narrow, depending on the grid, we will actually apply negative margins. So you can see right here, what we're doing is we're applying a negative right margin on this, and the negative right margin looks at this grid, a variable right here called grid column width, and then it looks for a grid column gap. So basically we do like, let's say like at the maximum grid right here, we go -3 times the grid column width plus the grid column gap, and then it will pull it over. Now those particular variables are a pain in the ass to calculate right here. So because, so normally CSS variables in modern browsers, they're calculated at runtime. So you can have like a variable set to 18 pixels at smaller widths that will get recalculated to 36 pixels at larger widths and things like that. But because we have to compile everything for Internet Explorer 11, they're basically like static, like regular variables that are compiled beforehand, and like more like Sass variables, which means that we need to generate different versions of these for every single breakpoint that we have. So we have like a grid column count, and we have a grid column count large, and a grid column count nav, and a grid column count max. And some of these are just kind of set to each other, but ooh, the puppies are stretching. Does everybody see that? Does everybody see the puppy stretching? Oh, they're cute. And so, all right, performance test. How much time we got? Oh, we only got 10 minutes, so shit. So to answer questions right here, so we do a number of things for performance right here. So one of the important things that we do is we do font preloading, where we preload fonts that are in the kind of above the fold right here. So this preload the fonts, this will tell the browser to actually pull down the font even before it reads the CSS file and knows it has to. Because normally for the browser to pull in a web font, it needs to, like, number one, like look at the HTML, then it needs to look at the CSS, then it needs to read the CSS, then it needs to compare the CSS to the DOM, and then it needs to say, oh, we need this web font, and then it pulls in a web font. And so you have like web fonts that can appear late and things like that. So this tells it to pull it in immediately, and then when the browser says, oh crap, we need a font, oh, we already got it, here it is, and it doesn't have to initiate that. So that makes a big difference. And then something else that we do, if you look at our JavaScript, we don't use any jQuery. You know, jQuery is actually like we're trying to refactor jQuery out of Drupal at some point, and even we're a very long way to do a long way away from doing that. But at the same time, when we're introducing a new theme like this, we don't want to do like things like jQuery. So all this is just vanilla JavaScript right here, and we're shipping like, I don't know, like 20 kilobytes of JavaScript or something like that, and it's not a lot. And I think we're shipping like, I don't know, maybe like 120 kilobytes of, you know, CSS, and a lot of that is like shims for Internet Explorer 11. And like, because it's Drupal is like, you know, it's a server rendered site. So it's basically HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and some web fonts. And the shit, it's like super fast. So yeah. So James says, components module is a contrib module that lets you encapsulate markup and CSS. I see your theme has components folder. Yeah, so I do have a components folder within CSS, and that's more like, this is, where is the CSS? This is just like the equivalent of Sass partials, you know. So this is like the block component, or like the autocomplete component and stuff like that. So yeah. So let me see if there's anything else that I want to talk about while we have time. And then we can maybe like shift our focus back to the puppies where it really should be. So anyway, so like, yeah, the grid was a real pain in the butt, but man, I really like it. It looks good. And it kind of fits out and everything in there. So let's just find my slideshow in here somewhere. So I talked a little bit about CSS Grid. There's a number of different things. So like in CSS Grid, you can also use negative grid numbers, and that'll count from the end. But because we support I11, we can't do that. And like, because we have like this auto prefixer that'll automatically convert to like Internet Explorers, like, oh, you see the puppy stretching? Anyway, it'll automatically convert to like this weird syntax that IE created a long time ago, but you can't use negative numbers. So like, there's just some funky stuff in here. Good morning, lady. Oh, you guys are so sweet. So CSS variables, I talked a little about how we use these, and something else I want to talk about is just like sneaky backend UIs. So there's things like the node preview toolbar, and let's maybe just like kind of look at that like really quick, you know, like me. So there's like a lot of like little things that can, like if I hit the preview button right down here, you have like this toolbar up here that we have to theme, and that's just like something that, it's just like one thing, you know, like, and there's like a lot of these. Like something else is the that's not themed right now is the media. Let me see, like if I switch this to full HTML, I now have this media thing, and I open up the media browser, and the media browser is not themed at all. And this is actually a core issue that they want to solve this upstream, but like, this is just something that, you know, there's a lot of little sneaky dialogues, and like something else is like, if I open this up, this is broken too, you know, there's a little bit of funky stuff in here that we're going to need to fix before we can go stable. But things like that are happening, and like something else that we had to theme is we had to theme like the workspace module. The workspace module is like, or not, it's a workflow or workspace, I don't know. It's the one where you can like set drafts and stuff on your content, and like there's a little toolbar, we had to theme that, and there's like a lot of like little funky things about that. There's also things like the settings tray for the layout builder. Like our form settings were interfering with those, and we had to override some of those in there, and things like that. But we want it to kind of be seamless, so we're working on that. And it's coming along pretty well, and honestly afterwards I want to kind of see if I can work in core upstream and maybe get some of the stuff resolved, because I mean these issues that I'm having here with the media library and all that type of stuff, this is stuff you have to do while you're theming client sites, but no one ever thinks of this stuff, and it's like kind of dumb that you should have to do it. And once again, check out these puppies. Are you guys the cutest? Yes you are. Yes you are the cutest. And so yeah, so we got 5 minutes. Any more questions while I keep on going here? Accessibility, personal challenges. There's been a bunch of personal challenges. Like I feel like personally, like I've been like a little bipolar on this project where I've either been like all into it or like running away from it. You know, there's been months where I was like, you know, away from it, or not away from it, but just like kind of avoiding it and doing a minimum and feeling guilty about it. You end up feeling guilty. And but it's kind of, oh, look at those puppies. And then like I say, manage enthusiastic contributors of all various skill levels. And like there's a number of people that have coming in and like I think they're just told to make core commits or something, and they just do like stuff that doesn't make sense, or they have improper grammar because don't have English as a first language, and they're rewriting comments and things like this. And this, you know, like from my point of view, it's like I really want to be very welcoming and enthusiastic, you know, but at the same time, it's like I don't want to, like if you're making a big old patch and you're changing around comments and stuff, it's like I don't want to have to, you know, tell you proper grammar and stuff. So, you know, I talk about balancing work and family versus Olivero. Like the project that I'm on at my work right now isn't like the most exciting project, and so like I find myself thinking about Olivero more than I should. So it's like I have to force myself to do work and stuff like that. And then managing my own mental health. Oh, look, this puppy's about to fall.